time I cheated on a test. I was in 7th grade in a new school, making new friends. It was a music class. We were taking a quiz on the instruments of the orchestra. We were supposed to identify the instrument we were listening to and say whether it was a trombone or a tuba or trumpet, clarinet, saxophone, oboe, violin, cello, bass. I thought I was doing okay until I came to number 7 on the quiz, when I couldn't make up my mind. Was it a violin or a cello or a viola? The notes were awfully high for a cello, but awfully low for a violin. Did that mean it was a viola? I wasn't sure, so I peeked at my neighbor's answer. Her answer was different than mine, so I erased my answer and changed it to hers. The next week, when our teacher returned our quizzes, I had a score of 9 out of 10. The one answer marked with red pen was the one I had changed. Sometimes the things we really need to learn aren't the things we're studying. And often, letting there be room or space for not knowing the answer is the most important thing of all. Which is why I'm going to share some riddles with you this morning, so we can make room in our heads and our hearts and our spirits for not having the answers. So here's our first riddle this morning. Ready? What comes once in a minute, twice in a moment, but never in 1,000 years? Yes, Deanna? The letter M! See, Unitarian Universalists are just too smart. There is no not having an answer at All Souls, is there, truly? Well, for those of you who didn't know the answer right away, and I was one of those when I found that riddle, I ask, what do you do or how do you feel when you don't understand something or when you can't figure something out? I guess I'm also asking that to our 7th graders and above who are here with us this morning. A young man taking our Path to Membership class had a really intriguing response last week, so I want to tell you about him. An exercise in those Path to Membership classes is a fill-in-the-blank exercise. I'll say the adults in class were surprised that I, the minister of the church, was asking them to find answers to core religious concepts and questions, but they did it anyway. They played along. The exercise has questions like, humans are, fill in the blank, and people say things like horrible, despicable creatures. It's almost always an answer. Or humans are part of nature. Other questions are, God is, fill in the blank. And people say, just an idea, or God is love. Nature is, fill in the blank. After we die, we, fill in the blank. Prayer is, Jesus is, Buddha is, what matters to me most is, fill in the blank. After filling in all those blanks, we discussed our answers in pairs, and then we shared what we had learned and discovered with each other. 2 people, one a humanist and one a theist, were happy to tell the group that they'd been able to listen to each other with open hearts and minds, and were able to find common ground in their understanding of ultimate things. One person confessed the whole exercise made her feel really nervous. Who was she? Who was she, after all, to decide such momentous things? But having done it, she appreciated the new freedom she felt. And then this other person told the class that he had left a few blanks. He hadn't filled in the blanks. He had left the spaces empty. And he said, I'm giving myself space to not know. I'm giving myself space to not know what I think about these things in my life right now. New answers emerge when we leave some blank spaces empty. new possibilities, new paths, new potential. When we don't need to know the answer, new things are possible. So here's another riddle for you. Deanna, you can't answer this one. The more you take, the more you leave behind. What am I? Anyone? Breathing? The more you tell, I'll just give you the answer. The more you take, the more you leave behind. Who am I? Steps is the answer. The more you take, the more you leave behind. So I want to introduce somebody else to our service this morning. Her name is Sophia Lyon-Fahs, who took many, many steps forward for our free faith. She was a major force in liberal religious education in the 20th century and a founder of Unitarian religious education. Fahs emphasized over and over again how important it is to leave space for our natural curiosity to lead us to new understanding. She worked for more than 80 years with children and teachers and tells this story. Wendell and Jimmy were in her 6th grade class. One day, Wendell said, "Someone says that if you boiled all the chemicals in your body down and sold them, they'd be worth only 7 cents. It's the way you're put together that's the hard part." Then Jimmy, his friend, said, "And just chemicals can't have children." And so Ms. Fahs, listening to this dialogue, started to imagine how she might fill a table with containers holding samples of the different chemical elements in one human body. And she imagined how amazed the children would feel as they stood with more questions than answers before this great mystery of life. As Ms. Fahs said herself, we need not labor to reach up into another realm to feel the touch of infinity. Although it is far off, yet it is also nearer than hands or feet. We can never know anything, even the most microscopic bit of matter or protoplasm, without facing what also eludes our understanding and even our imagination. It's really not strange that what mankind has believed in is in a supernatural realm can already be here in the natural. Consider the lilies of the field, how they grow, said Jesus. Consider the flower in the crannied wall, said Tennyson. Consider anything you please, said the Zen Buddhist, but just consider it, not as a symbol of eternity, as God in miniature, or as a moral lesson, but just consider it. So much magic happens when we allow ourselves not to know the answers, at least not right away. Frank Epperson was only 11 years old when he mixed some powdered sugar with some water to make himself a drink, took a few sips, started playing outside with friends, got distracted, and left his drink outside overnight. It was a cold night. It was the year 1905. And the next morning, when he went outside to get the newspaper, Frank found his cup and discovered popsicles. He shared his discovery with his parents, who also thought it tasted pretty good. And he started making this new frozen treat for his friends and family until he finally filed for a patent in 1924. Of course, he could have just thrown his leftover drink, his mistake, away the next morning. And I'm thankful he didn't. What might you discover if you hadn't already decided that what you had done was a failure or a mistake or a success? What if you didn't assume you knew the outcome or the answer? What if we are truly here? What if our primary purpose is not to save the world, but to witness to it. What if we're here, as Annie Dillard writes, truly to abet creation and to witness to it, to notice each other's beautiful face and complex nature, so that creation need not play to an open house? Rob, a member here at All Souls, was 17 years old and heading off to college when his friend John, who was supposed to be his roommate at college, died. I asked Rob if I could share his story with you this morning. It was a car accident that killed his friend. Rob remembers hearing the news, much as we heard the news this morning about Bill, and feeling the shock and the pain and the sadness and the anger and the disbelief and the fear of facing his friend's mother. As he turned to face that fear, he discovered something new. He told me, I just knew I had to go and be with her. I knew I wouldn't have any answers or even anything much to say. I just knew I had to go and be there, which I did. I went over to her house and I just sat there in the room with her, and she talked and she cried and I listened and I talked, but only a little bit, and I cried a little bit, and that was enough. That was more than enough. It was everything, really. So recently, when someone I love received a diagnosis of fourth stage cancer, already metastasized, and a friend didn't know what to do or how to respond, I told my friend Rob's story. She thanked me and headed over to be with our friend. When we realize we don't have to have the answer or any answers at all, so much more is possible in our lives. And sometimes the answers, even just to riddles, are worth waiting for. A few of you told me before this Sunday that you wanted to know the answer to the riddle that was printed in the weekly newsletter. That riddle, you had a little more time to figure out this one. That riddle went like this: what 8-letter word can have one letter taken away at a time until there's only one letter left at the end, and every time a letter is taken away, there's a word left, including the last time when there's only one letter left? I don't think I'm going to ask you for the answer to this one. The word is starting. Starting. You take away the T, you're left with staring. You take away the A, you're left with string. You take away the R, you're left with sting. You take away the other T, you're left with sing. You take away the G, you're left with sin. You take away the S, you're left with in. You take away the N, you're left with I. So we know this morning that many of us are heading back to school. Even I am taking piano lessons again this fall. So I received some of that blessing this morning. I started playing the piano when I was 6 years old. My mother was my first teacher, and I loved playing the piano. It was kind of sad when I got busy in college and stopped playing. Then, happily, I started playing again when I started accompanying my kids, both of who studied string instruments. And then it's sad because I stopped again really when I became a minister and I got too busy again. So I'm really excited. I'm really excited to be studying with a fabulous teacher again this fall. Our children and our grandchildren, our nieces and our nephews, our friends and our fellow members, so many of us are going back to school. Some are starting kindergarten, others are starting college. Sophia Faz herself, the famous Unitarian religious educator I mentioned earlier, went back to school and was ordained as a Unitarian minister at the age of 82. She made her mark, and she did not let her age stop her from going back to school and learning new things. Here at All Souls, our children and our youth will be exploring everything from their own natures and the natural world to world religions and their own beliefs. There's a curriculum for every class. Yet my hope for every student, which is every one of us here, is that we leave a lot of blank spaces empty. In that 7th grade music classroom so long ago, I didn't need to know the answer to number 7. I needed to learn to trust and believe in myself. Cheating took away all the pride and joy I might have felt about getting a 99 if I hadn't. I wish I had known I could have left an answer blank, and that it was okay not to know the answer at all. There's a reason there's a blank book in our Simple Gifts 2 painting out in the foyer, and you can check it out on your way to coffee and refreshments this morning. On top of the Bible and on top of a book by Ralph Waldo Emerson, there is a 3rd book which is full of blank pages. That book reminds us how important it is in this community that we make space for not knowing. It's in the spaces and in the rest between the notes that we hear the music. It's in the spaces where the most important learning happens. The blank book reminds us that the story isn't over, and we know that we're writing our own life story ourselves, and we're writing a new story here together at All Souls. So make sure, please, that you take a blank book with you when you head home today, and welcome to church year 2018-2019. I am so curious to see what's going to happen. Thank you. You're visiting with us online today. We love connecting with people all across the country and around the world, sharing our powerful message of love beyond belief.
There's something new happening here. You can now join All Souls as a virtual member. Our virtual membership is designed for friends who live outside of Tulsa, Oklahoma, and who want to engage with All Souls in a meaningful way.
You can be part of an expanding family, a global family really, wherever you are. If you live in Oklahoma,
Ohio,
or Orange County, California,
Canada,
or Cameroon. By becoming a virtual member, you'll be able to deepen your connections with members and friends here in Tulsa and with members wherever you are.
Each week, you'll receive special All Souls content tailored for you, our virtual members. Virtual members have access to pastoral care, to personal prayers, and also receive invitations to exclusive web events.
You can learn more, and if you're ready, you can become a virtual member today by visiting allsoulschurch.org/virtual membership.
We're grateful our ministries are having a positive impact on your life, and we want to share the good news of love beyond belief with more and more people. So no matter what, we need your support to keep this ministry growing and thriving, so please consider making a gift today. You can do so by texting
Love BB for Love Beyond Belief to 73256 or simply visit our website. You are a blessing in our lives. May you be blessed.
and be a blessing.